Good evening, viewers. COVID-19 forced many around the world to rethink our lives from work to school to entertainment. In response to travel bans, school closures, and recommendations to not gather in large groups and keep the distance from the fellow humans to limit the spread of virus, many people have turned to the digital tools to keep some semblance of normality. It has been an imperative to digitally transform our places of work and education, including to be able to operate effectively. As COVID-19 spread throughout the country, schools and universities have begun to virtual learning and the test conducting options. But what about the jobs? What about the internships and their future? With major market indices falling more than 30% in last 2 to 3 months, surely the uncertainty the environment is providing is going to create a more and more uncertainty environment. The tsunami of job losses and furloughs already on the way. Will this pandemic lead to creation of new stream of jobs maybe in the future? Let's find out more about the future of jobs in this post-corona world. With me, I have a very eminent panel. Without any further ado, let me just introduce the panelists to all the audience. Professor C. Rajkumar, the founding Vice Chancellor of OP Jindal University. A Rhodes Scholar, Professor Kumar was appointed as the Vice Chancellor at an age of 34 in 2009 when the university was established. He has 7 books and over 150 publications to his credit and has published widely in peer-reviewed journals in Hong Kong, in Australia, in India, Japan, and the US. Professor Kumar conceived the idea of establishing India's first global university and with the visionary leadership and the philanthropic support of Mr. Naveen Jindal, established the OP Jindal University in Haryana in 2009. A very warm welcome to you, Professor.
Thank you.
Professor Dr. Aditya Malik, from the Vice Chancellor from K.R. Mangalam University, has held several senior academic and administrative positions internationally and nationally and has traveled extensively giving scholarly lectures, particularly in the fields of humanities and social sciences in India, the US, Europe, and New Zealand. Professor Malik was honored as an inspired teacher by the former President of India, Sri Pranab Mukherjee, in 2016, which is the highest civilian recognition for university teachers in India. Welcome, Dr. Aditya.
Thank you.
Dr. Bisway Jo Chatterjee, the Vice Chancellor of University of Engineering and Management. Sir is known in the field of applied robotics and has several national level workshops in robotics. He played an active role in the introduction of applied robotics amongst the graduate works back in 2005, when the work in this field was still at the nascent stages. Now he's an author of 23 SCI international journals, research papers, and many other international and national journals and conferences. Good evening, Dr. Biswajoy.
Good evening.
Mr. Anil Nair, the Director of Admissions, Marketing and Outreach for Shiv Nadar University. Mr. Nair has over 21 years of experience in education and training domains, including K-12, higher education, vocational training, and skill development. During his stint in distinguished organizations such as Citibank, NIIT, Tata, he has managed various roles in operational management, customer acquisition, product management, go-to-marketing strategy and functions, and institutional alliances. He is responsible for establishing and executing a merit-based admission process that provides equal opportunity to every aspirant committed to learning and finding his or her space in the university. A very warm welcome, Mr. Nair.
Thank you very much.
So this being the panel, so let us start with the discussion and let's have the first thoughts of the panelists. Over to you, Professor Siraj.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, College Dunia, for inviting us and also for all the viewers, particularly students who are wanting to be part of this panel. Well, I'd like to begin by saying that this is indeed a period of uncertainty. The entire world, including the higher education community, has gone into shock waves. Nobody had predicted in the sense of being prepared for this, although there are some scientists and others, including Bill Gates, have said that such a thing the world is not prepared for. So I would like to start by saying that we are in a very unique and unprecedented situation globally. But I also want to say that the adaptability of higher education systems today has been quite remarkable. And notwithstanding the fact that privileged institutions, and I dare say privileged students, are able to better cope up with the use of technology and access to education during these difficult times. Nevertheless, adaptability has been quite remarkable. And I also want to say that that should form the foundation for hope and aspiration for students as we will indeed overcome this crisis that we are facing.
Thanks, Professor. Professor Aditya Malik, sir, your first thoughts regarding.
Well, thank you so much again, Tanjot and your team, for inviting me. And also, it's a pleasure to be on this panel with my colleagues and with all the viewers. A couple of thoughts to preface my thoughts on this topic by talking about a crisis. But clearly, as Professor Rajkumar has mentioned, we're in the times of tremendous uncertainty, unprecedented uncertainty, and we are in a time of a crisis. But I want to say that crisis is at the same time also a time for opportunity. It's an opportunity. And I'm not saying this just to say something positive and to pep up our viewers, but historically, if we look, that there have been periods of crisis which have then resulted in new opportunities, new kinds of technologies, new policies on a global scale and also locally and domestically. So a crisis, in fact, implies an opportunity, and it pushes new talent and new incentive to emerge. And the thing about a crisis is, and the crisis that we're facing today, is that it exposes certain conditions that are not working. For example, as Professor Rajkumar mentioned, and this is also what Bill Gates said 5 years ago, that we are not prepared for a pandemic.
Yeah.
And that not being prepared for a pandemic has now come to the surface in a sense, that many nations, at different levels are not prepared for this. So similarly, with climate change, but each crisis, climate change, for example, is also, a global crisis, but it presents us with new opportunities, for creating new kinds of energy sources. And in this pandemic, again, we have to look at it and understand what sort of professions and careers are going to be more and more in use to respond to the crisis. So I'll say that's all I want to say at the moment, and then we can take up some more during the discussion.
Thanks, Professor. Mr. Anil Kumar, your thoughts, sir?
Hi. So first of all, Taranjit and College Dunia, thank you so very much for giving me an opportunity to be part of this panelist, and especially among the renowned and known to panelists I know very well there. So at the outset, before I moving into share my thoughts very upmost, I would really like to share and give a message to all the panelists and the viewers who are there and all. Trust they and their family members are doing well and keeping themselves safe. That's what it is. So the foremost thing which comes to us is today one situation, as all the panelists and my previous already shared, we all know that this has come. Now the only thing today we are uncertain in what extent this damage would be, COVID-19 go, and its lasting impact in the overall workforce and global economy. I'm talking clearly from the perspective of today's discussion. Now, having said that, I would like to share one more very clear mandate here. Though the COVID has changed the whole scenario of workplace, but we all of us know before even the COVID-19 enter, the overall global economy was weakening even that. We know that when we started Jan, it was clearly telling and all. And with the recent, the statements which has been given through World Economic Forum, what has happened in Davos, it clearly shows there would be a big displacement, approximately 75 million jobs is going to be changed due to the adoption of new technology and certain structural changes in the labor market. That's very evident. It has been already told. It will have more ramification because of COVID, definitely come, but that was something which most of the players in the global have already anticipated that. Now, once we said that, everything is not gloom right now at all, and actually doom. Simultaneously, they have submitted, they're going to be simultaneously emergence of a close to 130 million new jobs and roles, which is also coming up and predicted easily. So what I feel currently, the agility of our young force, I call it today the challenges to the Gen Z and ZA, they are pretty much, towards the tech savvy. And we all know technology and probably the talent is two main key, skill set is going to rule the coming world and all. So that's where I wanted to leave it my thoughts and probably further take it in the discussion going
Yes,
forward.
yes, yes. Thanks, Mr. Anil. Dr. Bisway Chatterjee, your thoughts, please.
See, for the last 5 to 6 years, we have been hearing from the industry leaders that they need a lot of skilled manpower, but there is no dearth of opportunities, there is no dearth of jobs. But the problem is that they are not getting the skilled manpower to provide the jobs. My take on this, the positive part of this, avoiding all the negativities, my positive part of this is the learners will be more skillful in the coming days. They are taking the things seriously. They have started taking things seriously. They're learning more seriously. They're using the different online platforms, the different resources available all across the internet. And they're preparing themselves in a way that in coming 5 to 6 years, industry, they are going to get the best of manpower, which they have got in the last 10 years. In this session, I expect that there are many students who are wanting to pursue their career. They are thinking of which course to choose. So I'm sure that giving the different job opportunities that are going to come up in the coming days, that is going to help them. So we are looking forward to provide some insights on that what are the job opportunities that are coming up in the days to come so that they get helped. Thank you. I will carry on with the discussion when.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Doctor. So, taking a cue from the discussion point that skill development is becoming the need of the hour, which the industry is already industry was asking from the colleges and universities that yes, we need skilled manpower. But somewhere down the line, this pandemic has actually given the push which is required, or maybe just brought that aspect very much on the surface that yes, skill development is one of the key factors. So I would love to have some anecdotes, Professor Kumar, from what the colleges and what universities should play the role as of now, and let's say about about 1 year from down the line. I mean, what role should they play with respect to skill development?
So I think, well, first of all, I want to say that for the students who are watching, it's very important for you to recognize that this moment that we are talking about does, while it creates uncertainty, it's also a perfect opportunity for you to get into universities and colleges to advance your educational, imagination. Because I do believe that the end game in this entire coronavirus pandemic situation is that we should find a medicinal cure. That's the first possible end game. Second is we should find a vaccine. And the third is, several billions of people around the world need to get vaccinated. All of which does require any time between optimistically 6 to 9 months to 18 to 24 months, depending upon how certain other things play out. So during these years, if you are a high school student wanting to aspire to get into a college, or if you're a college graduate wanting to get into the job force, this is a perfect time for you to think about higher education. Because going into a college or a university will enable you to develop the foundational knowledge, understanding, skills, and perspectives that can help you to become a valuable professional in the future. In fact, all over the world, even economic depression had moments when students end up flocking to university campuses. So I will first say that this is a perfect opportunity and time for young people to think about a college, university for the higher education. As far as the question about skills is concerned, listen, a lot of it will depend upon the discipline that you want to study. So I firmly believe that there is no one set of skills that are, can be matched across all areas. But as somebody who works in the broader field of law and humanities and social sciences, some of the most critical aspects of one's skills will remain post-corona as well. First, your ability to have a critical mind in the sense to be able to have a critical thinking abilities, your ability to develop an analytical mind, to analyze problems and come up with solutions. your ability to read and write and think and reflect effectively. That's a very important element of learning that goes in. And also, I think other softer skills to be able to work with uncertainty. There are enough studies which shows in the US that those who have pursued liberal arts studies end up much better position in when it comes to these types of environments, because they are used to dealing with uncertainty. So even those engineers who are aspiring engineers have reasons to pursue a bit of liberal arts and humanities and social sciences in their own studies. So skill sets are important in this stage. It's also useful for you to widen your horizon. Maybe you may want to learn a foreign language that might just help you to position your candidature better. Maybe you may want to have a more interdisciplinary knowledge base as opposed to single discipline type of degree programs that you end up pursuing. In a way, advancing your qualifications and creating a more holistic approach towards learning will position yourself better for the future.
But Professor, what role will the university or the college will play here is what I'd want to,
So in some ways, I think the most important role colleges and universities ought to be playing now is that to be able to mentor students, to be able to pursue a range of career paths. In fact, one of the larger tragedies of Indian higher education has been our inability to be innovative and creative about career paths, and probably even create misplaced expectations on the part of our students when it comes to the linkages between the study and degree programs that they are pursuing on the one hand and the career opportunities that might potentially emerge. And that is why it's important for universities to have a more holistic approach towards careers, and that the degree programs that one pursue might end up having a range of opportunities as they graduate.
Thanks, Professor. Dr. Aditya, what's your perspective? I mean, the role of university will rather increase. Let's say the job offers in hand, they've already been like many job offers have been rescinded, many people have been furloughed, and many people have been put on hold. I know the skill development is the advice for the students to have, but do you see a role of colleges and universities being much higher than the usual?
Taranjit, absolutely. Absolutely see the role of universities and colleges being much higher. I mean, it's not talking about trained on content, and not just trained in a certain discipline, but the university and the kind of universities that we need today. The ones that we need today are those that look beyond first of all, your disciplinary boundaries, right? Which create an environment in which you become, as a student, as an individual, you become self-reliant. You're able to think critically about what's going on around you in society and how you're going to respond appropriately to those situations. In that sense, university is a safe haven to give students, to give young people, the time to absorb and to understand and to critically think and to be creative, and to also adapt. And I think this is an amazing opportunity right now for the new generation to redefine. There's an opportunity in every crisis, and this is a global crisis, to begin to redefine your vision of society. What kind of values, what kind of goals do you want to have? Because certain other structures are clearly they're crumbling. Okay, certain structures are crumbling per force. So it's an opportunity for young people, for students to think about how do you want to contribute, and what can your contribution be. So I think things that you learn at a university, ingenuity, resilience, thinking outside the box, critical thinking, and particularly cooperation that goes outside your disciplinary boundaries. That's very crucial in today's time, because otherwise you cannot understand what's going on in the world. And industry leaders, and I work very closely with industry leaders, they all want young people, students, to come in to jobs who have an understanding beyond their particular field. Not just engineering, but you need to know something about history. You need to know something about legal studies, maybe something about literature. Those are the kinds of people that are required, and that are successful. And if you look at the great entrepreneurs, of the 20th century, 21st century, they all came from these sort of backgrounds in which you break down, the sort of silo, system of thinking and doing things, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that, at least in a lot of Indian universities, is still, I would say, there's a gap. We haven't developed an environment or conditions in which students can actually develop this capacity and ability. But I think if you develop these abilities to think outside your particular boundaries, to be resilient, adaptable, self-reliant, then you're going to be able to manage any kind of situation. And once again, I think it's a very beautiful opportunity to start to lay down, new pathways. What do you want this society to look like now? And you're the young generation. In this gap where things are not going the way they were before, where do you want it to go? And you can be the master. You have the steering wheel in your hand.
Yeah, I think that's really great points in the whatever you said. We'll be coming back to this, specifically the silo thinking part. We'll be surely coming back to that. Dr. Viswajoy Chatterjee, my question: this deeper engagement with the students, specifically in developing of the skill, do you think that can actually help in building the placements of the colleges and university, specifically the current scenario that is in hand?
Yes, surely. We have to, as teachers or as universities, we also have got a great responsibility that to guide the students in the proper direction, which will enable them to have the best of jobs. For example, if I talk from an engineering point of view, in our university, because being engineering one of the key things, so I will talk about engineering. Say in engineering, if you are talking about the mechanical sector, automobile sector, then you can understand that at the moment, there is an emotion playing against China. You like it or you don't like it, there is an emotion playing against China. So if the government is thinking of electric vehicles as an option in the coming days, then you have to understand that the emotion will not allow the Indians to purchase those products from the Chinese market. So maybe the Indian market will have a huge chance of developing battery operated vehicles. So maybe the students of mechanical engineering will have to be guided that way, or the electrical engineering also will have to be guided that way, that you go for this particular skill of how to go for electric vehicles or this skill of electric vehicles. Then, for example, in the IT sector has not really seen that downfall to a great extent. Yeah. In the IT sector, you will find that in the coming days, already we were seeing that the industries were looking for getting converted to Industry 4.0. Now, what is Industry 4.0? To put it very simply, I'm expecting students are passing out of class 12. So very simply putting it forward, to make the manual machines automated. That was the thing. So once again, because this whole sentiment is playing against China, we were depending a lot for conversion of industry to Industry 4.0 on the Chinese products. Again, there is a huge opportunity for the Indian market to take up this factor that we can learn how to automate devices. We can learn PLC to convert the machines to automated machines, the working of machines, which is manual working of machines, to automated machines. So these are the things we need to teach the students. We have to focus on the things which is going to go up and teach those factors, teach those sectors. Do I have time now to talk about the sectors which are going to go up, or we come back to that?
We'll come back to that, sir. We'll come back to
Okay,
that.
sure.
Mr. Nair, you were talking about the structural changes of the labor market that is happening. Post-COVID, do you see localization of jobs happening? I mean, students graduating, preferring jobs at their hometown, something of that sort. Do you see that happening?
Look, I don't see 100% that will happen. Definitely, we all know social distancing is becoming a big issue currently, but that will not impact, as we know, since, as I mentioned, most of the institute we are right now, we are dealing with, a matured age of Generation Z, who are of 25 years of age, and Alpha, and they are all made the whole global as a platform which is flat. What does that mean? They have the power of, working collaboratively, solving collaborative challenges, which is predominantly, I'm talking about, as Prof. Aditya mentioned, we are talking about climate change, which is the biggest thing, which gives a new opportunity to work collaborative and all. So I don't think so that will restrict the student this way. Yes, unless and until if it is typical a restriction as we are having currently, a lockdown situation coming up. But I don't think so that will stop a young generation to look outside their native place to look for a job. At least this generation will not definitely.
Great. Meanwhile, to the audience, we are starting the polls. We are starting the polls now. Please go and contribute for the polls as well. Meanwhile, Professor Kumar, do you think the localization of job is going to happen in very near future, rather?
Yeah, so in the sense that, well, first of all, one of the things that is going to happen in the immediate future is a certain degree of risk averseness at all levels, both from the standpoint of people who are wanting to recruit and from the standpoint of people who want to get the jobs as well. And this will also vary from the levels of jobs we're talking about. I also think that people are going to be, because of this higher levels of desperation that will prevail at some sectors, people are going to be more risk-taking. And because they are also concerned about their jobs, the vulnerability for some people and some sectors will be much lower. For example, e-commerce is a very good example. I mean, we regularly see, people at the lower level, particularly, who are working very hard to protect their jobs and even are prepared to take risk. Health sector is a very good example. Nurses and paramedicals and healthcare workers. People are going to be much more risk-taking in those sectors because jobs are there, but because they need to have them, they're prepared to go to other places as well. So there will be some impact, but I do believe that the gains that might be, or the losses that might be in one particular sector might have some gains in other sectors as well. But I also want to say that I am very, let's say, reluctant to make grand predictions about the future on the basis of what we're seeing today. In fact, history has shown us that grand predictions about future on the basis of specific, even protracted crisis, including economic or other forms of crisis, have not necessarily proven to be true. So we need to keep that in mind when we think about making grand predictions about the future.
Okay, great. Do you see, Mr. Nair, my question to you specifically, do you see when it comes to the engagement with the students, specifically during these tough times, the imbibing the quality of entrepreneurship? Because ultimately, as you said, every pandemic or every at the end of the day, it's an opportunity. It has to be seen in a very positive light.
Sure.
Do you see the imbibing the quality of entrepreneurship, specifically during these tough times? It's very important.
Yes, absolutely. I think you are on your dot what you said it. During this situations, entrepreneur skills plays a very vital role. I'll just share with you with the whole panel and all. As Prof. Raj also mentioned, all this tough time doesn't mean that current situation depicts that the end is bad. It's not at all. History already proven us the financial numbers on recession doesn't mean that the whole economy goes on a typical recession. That's not the gang chart for that. I'll share with you. All of us are aware the 2003 SARS. What has happened? Okay, so a lot of people probably doesn't know the social distancing happened there also. Alibaba was launched somewhere in 1999, but they were not in the peak business and all. But since the overall, the base of predominantly the Chinese, consumer moved from, buying from the shops, moved towards the online. The whole shift paradigm happened there. It's changed the shopping behavior and all. And today we all know where Alibaba stands. So that's what I'm saying. All this changes, this all big, the jotting down. I rather call it. It's a kind of but definitely a deep impact which is happening. Gives the opportunity for other side also. And entrepreneur sales, as you mentioned, there would be a lot of openings. Some sector would be deeply defected, and some sector would be quite an opening. We all talk about, there was a buzzword in our economy, artificial intelligence, data science, we all talked about. But nobody's thinking, will artificial intelligence, the new role could be artificial intelligence psychologist.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing, these are the opportunity comes. And similarly, emotional intelligence and entrepreneurial skills together will be a leading factor. And as we said, we one of our what you call major soft after program in Shivnada University is also called Bachelor of Management Studies, where it's been given major and minor. So I'll probably tell you 60% of the students who enroll for this minor program are from the interdisciplinary. That means a student from the engineering background, BTech Computer Science, is taking a minor in BMS. So you understand that. So that's we are already doing it. And it's going to be an important skill set required going forward.
Some great points there. Professor Malik, what is your thoughts? I mean, any personal anecdotes from KR Mangalam University that you can share in? How the feeling of entrepreneurship can be rather poured into the students specifically during these times?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say I think that's absolutely crucial to develop that sort of ability, that spirit of an entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur is someone who is absorbed and understood the world in a certain way and is able to respond in a unique, innovative fashion to what's going on around them. And it's entrepreneurs who actually create new pathways, whether that's technology or it's, social structure, whatever that is, it's an entrepreneur who does that. And we are, I think it certainly is the role of universities to inculcate, to have students imbibe this quality. But how do you go about doing this? So if I can just give a small example of something that we started at KR Mangalam University, if that's okay. About 6 weeks ago, just as this pandemic was starting, starting to hit India and we were under lockdown, we started a pan-university project on COVID-19 called Unlocking the Lockdown, in which around 1,000 students, registered. And they have been, so what's happened here is that students from disciplines that normally don't talk to each other, that don't meet up, they've been meeting up to work on certain projects, to understand what's going on, to understand the data, to come up with analysis, to do research, and so on and so forth. So that's been very fruitful. The feedback from students has been very positive, that they are really appreciating and enjoying working with faculty and students they don't normally work with, right? So you have pharmacy, media, and legal studies, for example, working together, or engineering, architecture and humanities working together. And this is again an opportunity because this is so complex and so far-reaching. You can't go back to the old ways of thinking. So I think something like that, just an anecdote since you asked for it, this is something that is promoting, that is supporting, students to be able to think afresh, to understand what's going on and to be outside of their particular, disciplinary boundaries.
The boundaries between the courses itself is somehow getting reduced as you said, and specifically the point of you said that silo thinking. That silo thinking is what is to be removed. Dr. Biswajoy, what is your thoughts, sir? I mean, what role that the university has to play in imbibing this entrepreneurship in the students?
See, the entrepreneurship among students, there were already enterprising students. The thing is that now, because the whole thing can be done online, those students who are already enterprising, who are already having the entrepreneurial mindset, they are being made to talk with the students, with the different other students. So we are now opening up platforms like this Zoom platform that you are using, or other platforms. We are opening up where the students are continuously discussing. Like in UEM, we are having continuous discussions amongst the students, where the students are promoting their ideas. We are hearing those ideas, and then we are putting our thoughts into that and enabling the students to come up with their skills on which they can start their own enterprise. On the different segments, that is possible, that will be coming up in the coming days. In those segments, we are specifically allowing the students to promote their ideas. We are helping them. That way, I think it can be done. It can be done a little better than what it is right now. I'm sure that the students are also taking it very seriously at the moment, as I said at the very beginning. So many students, which was not a thing like maybe 2 months back, many students who are not that enterprising, they're coming up with their ideas regularly now. and they are presenting it in a platform. All the teachers are hearing that, all the students, enterprising students are encouraging that. So that way it is getting better, better and better. I'm sure that entrepreneurship will be a big key factor in the coming days.
Dr. Chatterjee, my question to you specifically, that you have a very huge background for applied robotics. Do you see new jobs regarding artificial intelligence, robotics, specifically during these times they coming up? We'll go in detail a little later, but since we are on this topic.
No, lot of jobs. As I told you, lot of jobs in this sector. Say, for example, if you don't have the basic idea of artificial intelligence, then how can you basically, even Internet of Things, how can you use it? Like, say, for example, you are going to stay at your home and you are going to control the different machineries in your factory. You're thinking that way also. The business leaders are thinking that the factory can be controlled from their home. The automation of industry can be done right from their home. Maybe 25% of the workers will be going to office. The rest 75% will be working from home and will be controlling the industry. So controlling the factory. So how is it possible with artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence will be in such a huge demand in the coming days. I'm telling you, any person who is having a skill of artificial intelligence will immediately be recruited by the industry. It is coming up such big. It will come up so big in the coming days. Because I told you I've just given you one example. Say, for example, our students of UVM were working in a one small conversion of one of the machineries of the industry to Industry 4.0. They were working on this welding machine. They were converting it to a automated welding machine, just converting an old machine. So what they were doing at that time, now they are working on a different dimension. They are now controlling it right from their home. They're controlling it right from their home. They're using the different tools of IoT and doing so. So I'm sure that without the knowledge of AI, without the knowledge of artificial intelligence, without the knowledge of the different behaviors of the machine, how can you control it or how can you automate it? It is just not possible. So yes, AI will have a huge role to play in the coming days. You will find I'm just telling the students, those who are in class 12, I'm telling you that if you choose AI as a career, then I'm sure that in coming 4 years, you are going to have a huge opportunity in the industry. And you know AI is enough for a student to get a job immediately.
Thanks, Doctor. Professor Malik, do you see new jobs getting created in the near future? New streams of jobs? Let's say AI, machine learning are the new age jobs. The traction getting more increased because of COVID-19.
Clearly, we're going to go into a world of digitalization much more stronger than it ever was before. There's still in some areas, also in education, for example, kind of hesitancy for using, online platforms, for digitizing everything, but that is going to increase. And I think also the demand or the understanding that we require for big data is going to increase. COVID-19 has shown that we need to be able to analyze, big data very quickly and learn how these, different trends are happening in society and the environment, economically and so on, very fast. So I think big data, and that requires, again, a competency in artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence for sure is something that is going to emerge much stronger in the sense of how we can use it as a resource for creating and managing, human ecologies and also non-human ecologies, our environment, climate change. All this can only be understood through, through artificial intelligence and how we analyze big data, because all these are problems on a vast scale that humanity has never encountered before, in fact. So that, I think, certainly is one area that's going to emerge. Then e-commerce is another area. I mean, you don't have to be rocket scientist to understand that e-commerce is going to be another area. Health and hygiene, well-being programs in health and hygiene and well-being, that's going to be something that's stronger. But overall, I think also, small industries, maybe local industries, families, startups. There's a lot of current, for example, even if you look at fashion, areas of fashion and fashion design, which is something that has been hit very majorly. even there's innovation happening. For example, today I got an email from Fab India. You might have heard of Fab India. It's a very good, well-known brand. They are making, they're kind of with their textiles. They're making masks. Masks that go with the suit you wear. The costumes or the kurta or whatever you want to wear. So people are adapting in certain ways. Even Airbnb, which is in the hospitality business, which is again taken a hit. They're also doing something. Coming together with 106 different countries online. So all kinds of new configurations, are set to emerge. What exactly will happen, we can only right now, speculate and just see the trends that are taking place.
Mr. Kumar, do you see new kind of jobs getting created? Let's say, how about the biotech engineering point as well? I mean, do you see new streams emerging for the jobs?
So I do think that certain areas are going to be more prominent, but I do believe that it also depends upon, there are going to be new ways of doing jobs will also emerge. So we did talk about the fact that climate change is a problem. So I do expect that a lot of more interest is going to be on issues surrounding sustainable development, efficient use of energy resources, and use of technology in relation to that. I still want to say that we are going to see a very big development surrounding cyber technology and jobs that are emerging surrounding gaming industry. One of the things that COVID-19, gaming was already becoming a multi-billion-dollar industry, and what COVID-19 has created is to have a more sharper focus on that industry itself. I also think that jobs that will require skill sets which will be part of a larger ecosystem to create human well-being, like for example mental health professionals. I expect that behavioral sciences, including psychology and psychiatry and those type of disciplines, will have a very important role. Law, think about it. Today we are talking about issues surrounding privacy. So many of us talked about how much we're going to have technology, artificial intelligence and robotics and machine learning. If there's going to be one major issue, now we are, I don't know, are we in a Zoom call? If you're a Zoom call, then we can clearly understand that the potentiality of abuse of these technologies, to what extent it will violate issues surrounding civil liberties and privacy. So the entire gamut of legal services, including the relationship between law and economics, law and society, law and politics, all of that are areas which are going to have a more prominence, in a world that is, rapidly changing.
Thanks, Professor. Quite varied perspective that I was hoping for. Mr. Nair, what is your thoughts? Data science jobs increased by about 400% in 2019. You see new stream of jobs opening up?
Absolutely. I think I second the thoughts and opinion of Prof. Raj and Malik there already. One thing we need to all understand when we're talking about data analytics and all, why it's like that. So the biggest fuel for the fourth industry revolution is data. That's everybody understand. And data plays a very vital and critical asset to any organization, whether it's small, big, and it's across all the different sectors. Okay. A simple examples I'll tell you data why I'm saying 30 to 37% of the sales happens of online shoppers are through the remarketing, and remarketing is predominantly done by that. You go to a shopping mall online and you buy a particular product and you're not paid and you left it. It's called left card. And you will see that in wherever you're going, it will correlate you. Let's say, for an example, you're buying a formal shoes, brown. Wherever you go in Facebook, Insta and all, you keep on seeing that and all. So please understand that I'm just giving one scenario. Definitely the perspective of job will definitely change, and it will be changing according to multidisciplinary, which I was mentioning. It's not going to be depth of a degree knowledge required. It would be required the width of your knowledge and skills. Okay, you can't isolate. A very simple example today, we are probably not most of the people know. We all know about Mercedes Formula One. They manufacturing the fastest car. Recently they moved. So the most thing is agility, creativity, design thinking, and critical thinking. They moved all their production towards making the breathing aids. I'm not talking that there are opportunities, but please understand the focus has gone from manufacturing a formula car to that side. So that's why I'm saying this whole situation, and especially as we are talking about data, going to evolve a lot of jobs coming up in a big time. Okay. So I believe this should be taken as an opportunity. And my message to all the young generation should be education and aptitude towards a lifelong learning is going to be become more crucial at this given point of time for every student, every workforce who are already working or probably in a chance to may lose a job. That's what it is.
Thanks, Mr. Nair. Dr. Chatterjee, do you see any shifts or any trends for students applying for, let's say, government jobs? Do you see that happening?
It might increase. The trend of students applying for government jobs might increase, but then again, it depends. If he, as Professor Raj correctly said, that you cannot plug the future out of a crystal ball. But yes, there is high opportunity that students opting for or trying to opt for a government job increases. Yes, it might increase, but then again, it does not diminish the opportunities of certain sectors, like say for example already mentioned, like IT sectors. There also the demand is continuously increasing, so you might also expect students to apply more for IT. Telecommunication sector, it is doing very good, it has not gone down, so we might see the students applying for telecommunication sector also in private sector. So yes, government might increase, but yes, that does not go down the other opportunities at the same time.
Dr. Malik, what's your thought? I mean, do you see government jobs getting students preferring government jobs over private jobs? Do you see that happening?
Not necessarily. It's possible. I mean, I think, if I can say this, I think in this situation, the government, the response for the government, because also, besides how we respond to the, the pandemic, there's also tremendous social issues that have been exposed in India, particularly, right? And we can all see this, all the images of the millions of, migrant workers who don't have anywhere to go. They're walking home thousands of, hundreds of miles or kilometers and so on. So that's also exposed something about, our society, a kind of imbalance that needs to, if we want to go forward as a community, society, nation, everybody has to be taken, along with you. So perhaps, the government, needs to, and it is doing that, needs to take a much stronger lead in creating new kinds of portfolios and new kinds of jobs also that are looking after this kind of tremendously unprecedented sort of social inequality that exists in our, in our backyard, so to speak, right in front of everybody's, everybody's daily lives. So if that is done, then I think there's an opportunity, for young people also to contribute, to be of service to society. If that sort of an expansion, if the government thinks of that, taking the lead in creating new, portfolios that look after these kind of issues that have emerged, which they are also doing. But otherwise, I don't see a necessary trend, into government jobs over private sector. Although there seems to be more security maybe in government jobs. One thinks, there's more security. Maybe that's why you're asking this question.
Mr. Nair, do you see any trends shifting? Do you see reverse brain drain happening because of this? I mean, a lot of the outside economy, the economy of the US and the Western countries primarily. So all the economists are seeing that it is going to a V-shaped recovery, but however, it is going to be a bigger than the Great Depression, the economic slowdown. Do you see a reverse brain drain happening to the jobs for next 4 to 5 years? I mean, people coming back to India, people focusing more on the country instead of moving out for jobs.
Look, please understand. It's too early to say. As you mentioned, it's a V-shaped curve economy right now. We have not reached to a typical L-shaped kind of a scenario in recession, which is the worst to face together. I think it will depend upon geography to geography. They will see, and sector to sector. Okay, that may be a possible where the competitiveness within the geography or the place you're going will be more. There are high chances that the brain drain will happen in those sectors. Okay, because currently the whole problem of employability, sustainability would be for each country. So the challenge would be to the highly competitive, where there is a great, gap into the skill set of existing country have and what they have foreigners there. So definitely on those places they are safe. Where the gap is little less, that's where possibility a problem will come, where they might have a tendency, unless and until, which we all talked about, they don't upgrade their skills, don't adapt to the what we have discussed, all the panelists says, then definitely there is a possibility. But I think it's too early to say. It will take at least 2 quarters to decide on that, because right now I don't think so anybody is thinking to even step out, unless and until probably some of the people stuck in Italy, they're thinking the numbers of deaths are rising. I'm telling you, it's a very human nature. They probably wanted to, like, let's go back to India, at least the numbers are less there. Go back to the family. That's the first thing in their mind. Nobody's even thinking that side. So I believe it's too early to answer that. At least 2 quarters later, we would be seeing how it moves.
Dr. Chatterjee, your thoughts on this, sir? Do you see reverse brain drain happening?
Yes, there is a high probability of that happening, that a lot of people coming back. That way, it is positive that industry might get some good manpower, but then again, competition will increase within the country for the students. And there's a high chance of that thing happening. Whatever you're saying, there's a high chance of that thing happening. Yes, my answer is a straightforward yes.
Okay. Professor Rajkumar, your thoughts? I mean, you don't predict future with the current situation.
No, I think, when I say don't predict future, we should be not be expecting it to be certain about it. So I do think that, so one of the things that I have been arguing and for a very long time is that this is time for Indian higher education system to prepare itself and position itself better. I written an article sometime recently, actually, with a colleague of mine, where we argued that this is the time for stay in India and study in India. Having studied in universities around the world, I do believe that this is an opportunity for India and Indians to recognize the need for studying in India, not only because of the fact that there are institutions which are actually where they could consider, but more importantly, the level of uncertainty, but also the adverse impact of the entire higher education scenario around the world is very serious. Forget the jobs. Even the opportunity to possibly be immigrating into some of these countries have become very uncertain, and publicly countries have made policies surrounding it already, and part of it is not known, but it will be known very soon. So in some ways, there is a very good possibility at multiple levels. One, students who are thinking about going abroad would be discouraged, should be discouraged to go and stay in India. Those who are studying there, many of them are returning back because their entire education is converted into online, and the economies of scale and the cost benefit analysis for pursuing the degree online entirely for an international fee doesn't make sense. And the third is the possible incentive to get a job is also ruled out. And the fourth, even a future immigration is uncertain. And so that is going to create a scenario where those students who have returned to India might possibly consider getting into Indian universities, and potentially they may, if those who have completed degrees abroad, have every reason to come back to India and look for opportunities here. But what is important is we need to have more and more flexibility and innovation in our higher education sector on the one hand, and also students should also be much more flexible about the kind of career opportunities they might want to take. Both these elements will determine how prepared we are as an education system, as a knowledge society, for providing opportunities, and how students and graduates are able to make meaningful lives out of their own careers and their study experiences.
Great. Getting to the last of very last of the questions, travel and tourism sector is something which is kind of the most hit sector with this pandemic, and 10% of the jobs contribute to the travel and tourism sectors. Any thoughts on how to revive that sector? Because at the end, it is the bread earner of 10% of the population. Professor Malik, maybe you can start. I mean, any ideas how to revive that sector?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a very, it's a very challenging question that you put there, Tarjot, how to revive this particular sector, tourism and travel, and what sort of different modalities. Of course, one thing we've seen that particularly the tourism or hospitality, area has done is to adapt to the situation by offering, hotels, etc., have been offering themselves as, units for quarantine and so on. But that's clearly not going to be a lasting, solution to sort of revving up that particular business. So how this can be done, it's what sort of configurations. Clearly, you can't have online tourism and hospitality or travel. Perhaps I think again, to come back to one of the things that have been mentioned by panelists, also Professor Rajkumar, increasingly we'll have to look at issues of sustainability, right? Yeah. And all the kind of travel that is done globally, also in terms of tourism, is having an impact clearly on things like climate change and in pollution and the environment and so on, which, by the way, studies have shown now that carbon dioxide into the air has decreased by 8 or 10% over the last 2 months, and you can see that in Delhi also. The pollution levels and so on. So clearly, we have to rethink, if we can, we have to rethink methods of travel and tourism, perhaps that they are more localized.
Yeah.
It have to be more localized if we are going to go for sustainability, if we're going to address things like climate change, environment, pollution. All of us have been actually, even in this crisis, I certainly am enjoying, the fresh air in Delhi, which I've never seen, you go out in the night, you can see the stars. You don't have to go to the mountains.
Yeah.
So maybe more, local and domestic, emphasis on where you can go and, highlighting the kinds of heritage that we have in this country. And we have tremendous heritage in this country.
Yeah.
So I think, just sort of, initially I would say that's the way to go forward. International travel is going to be down for a long time, and it's sad because it's hit, the aviation industry so badly.
Yeah.
Many airlines have gone out of business, clearly. Even big airlines, Virgin Atlantic, many are not getting subsidies from the government. So where the aviation industry is going to go, we don't know. But we have to create, different kinds of innovative ways of, promoting certainly travel and tourism. Maybe, the idea of villages, Airbnb in villages, where you get to know something about the culture, you learn.
Great. So we just announced a little poll result here, and after that, I'm going to ask for the closing remarks. So, in 73% of the respondents, they believe that the remuneration of the salaries are going to go down after COVID-19. With that perspective in mind, I would seek the panelists for their closing remarks. Also, please, according to you, what is going to be the long-term effect of COVID-19 on the students and their placements specifically? So on that note, I would want the closing remarks. We can start off with Dr. Biswajoy.
I'm telling you, I'm trying to talk from a positive point of view. You have asked a question like travel and tourism. A while back you asked, the travel and tourism is going to go down. Very quickly I'm going to say, there is doubt what will happen to the construction sector. Like if property buyers are not in a position to repay their loans, then real estate is going to dip down. It is going to dip down because the monsoon season is also coming. Now, it might also happen that there is a rush to complete pending projects. As a result, there might be jobs in civil sector also, in construction sector also. Similarly, say farmers are sitting on the rabi crop, which is going down due to the untimely rain. Now, the lucky part is that because many people are not able to travel out, so the work rate is going up. Like people are ready to work at a lower rate. You're getting more workers there. So similarly, in the travel sector, did you ever imagine that when the liquor shops will open, people will rush over there? It might also happen. There's one sector of people who are thinking that the food eaters, the food lovers might also rush to the hotels, right, to the restaurants. There might be post-lockdown, the sales of air ticket may zoom. And you might find that tens and thousands of people who are stranded across the globe, they might move or try to move from one part of the other. They might want to go to their family. So the travel and tourism sector might also see a little bit of hope in that respect. That is what I was wanting to answer. Anyway, about the placements, see, it's a very temporary phase. To say very seriously, we will have good days very soon. So definitely placements will also come up. Students will have very good, already the students are having good opportunities of working from home. You have to understand that because the world was in a shock, the different CEOs and the different industries were really planning out what to do, how to do it. But because there are hopes in several sectors, hopes of things getting better and better, definitely internships, placements of students will also come up. And those students who are in class 12, who are just passing out class 12 right now, I tell you, you have got a lot of time for the situation to revive, and the industries will understand how to go about things. And already a lot of circulation of internship offers and job offers have started with work from home opportunities. Similarly, things will be better with days to come, and I'm sure that you will not face the big hit when you pass out. The current batches, 1 or 2 years, might face a bit of downfall, but surely you are not going to face any such things. I believe so. I am a hopeful person though.
Thanks, Dr. Chaya. Thanks a lot. Mr. Nair, your closing remarks on.
I'm being a very optimist person. So I second Prof. Joy's comments very clearly and all. This is just for a time being situation. So we shouldn't be really bogged down with this. Yes, we need to be a little worried and probably need to take an action. As I mentioned earlier, and some of the panelists already mentioned, the overall global economy and workplace will be different in significant ways. That's what I'm saying. Upskilling is required and all. And due to this COVID impact adding up to this, you should expect there is a rise of jobs which is not presently exist also. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned with you, we are talking only about AI, but we probably go into AI psychologists. We're just talking about drone technology. We are talking about drone managers, which I mentioned. We're just talking about data analysis, but I'm talking about quantum data analysis that's going to be up. So on a different sector. So let's say I was just reading an article which clearly saying that there would be specialists required because we're talking about alternative energies. So there would be a solar power specialist, which we never heard of it. And similarly, wind turbine specialist. I'm just sharing it in different sectors. So that way I'm saying it's a positive thing. And as Prof mentioned, for 12 students, it's still a lot of time. And the students who are just graduating, okay, some of them have got the offer letter alone, wait for this 1 or 2 quarter. I think things would be settled down and all. It's like that, as I mentioned in the very initial comment, I see a silver lining in the dark clouds. And at the end of the tunnel, there's definitely a brightness. But yes, we don't know how much time we are taking to reach the, cross the tunnel. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Nair. Professor Malik, your closing remarks, please.
I think, crisis has, different phases to it. First you sort of identify it and then you try and understand it. And the second thing is that, second sort of phase of how you respond is you reframe it. And the reframing is what I would call also kind of a readjustment. So while we're in the middle of it, we're in the midst of that sort of period of reframing, what exactly is going on and how can we respond to it? And I think, maybe this will go on for a few months, 6 months, a year, possibly a little bit longer, but definitely, at the end of it, there's going to be a new kind of configuration that is emerging. What exactly that will be, none of us really know. We can only see trends, but I'm quite, positive that that new kinds of job offers, new kinds of employment, new career opportunities, new professions will emerge after this. This is a period of readjustment. This crisis has just been there for 2 months. It's had a huge impact already, but we are moving towards, readjusting and responding to it. And in the meantime, I think a university is the perfect place to come and be, while this readjustment is going on. See, in that period of time. And to see how it moves and where it moves and so on and so forth. So I think once again, this is an opportunity, and for all our students and all the students watching, for the young people watching, this is an opportunity to create something, to also set down the kind of direction you want society to go in. In this kind of interim period, you can think about that. Where is it going to go? So to create and actually imbibe a sort of self-reliance on the one hand, and the ability to cooperate, because that's going to provide you with the kinds of tools you need to be successful in this sort of crisis or in any other kind of crisis.
Great. Thanks, Professor Malik. Professor Rajkumar, over to you, sir. Your closing remarks.
All right. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank College Dunia for taking this effort to reach out to young people who are obviously anxious. First, I want to say that for all those students who are anxious about the future, I want you to know that the hope and the aspiration, the possibilities for you is phenomenal. And the reason I say that is, given the fact that extraordinary amount of effort is being undertaken as we speak to deal with this crisis, but also to come up with a vaccine that will hopefully help us and take us to the next level is very strong. I want to say, pitch in for my own alma mater. As some of you know, Oxford University scientists have already, found a vaccine, which they're very hopeful. And believe it or not, their level of confidence is very high, and they've ended up beginning manufacturing of it. Serum Institute in India has begun manufacturing of that vaccine, and we're looking at over 1 million vaccines available, hopefully in October. Fingers crossed, that might just be, a game changer. Secondly, I want to say that for students, this is a perfect time for you to become more qualified, for you to develop a deeper intellectual rigor and understanding of whatever areas of knowledge that you want to develop in. If you're a high school student, ensure that you get into a good college, good university, and pursue education. 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending upon the courses you want to study. When you graduate, world will be a fundamentally different place, better for you. If you are an undergraduate student, completed your undergrad studies, want to get a job, this is a perfect time for you to actually not enter the job industry, but go back to a university to pursue your master's education. Again, in a couple of years, when you graduate, the job market will be better situated. The other side of the job itself is that be more flexible, pursue innovation, think about entrepreneurship in some areas, think about new careers that are going to emerge, all of which will require some of the more fundamental skills that we talked about today. I want to pitch in for academia. Look at the situation that we have in our own country, 1,000 universities and 40,000 colleges. There is a huge opportunity for becoming teachers, researchers, not just in colleges and universities, but also in schools. We lament about the fact that we don't have enough people who come into education who are bright people. All of you run into corporate jobs. Maybe this is an opportunity for you to think about becoming a teacher, becoming a researcher, and that may end up becoming your calling in life. So start thinking not just out of the box, just destroy the box and start thinking about you as a person in relation to the opportunities that might just become available. But this is just going to be a lot better than you might actually think now.
Thanks a lot. On that very, very positive note, just closing this discussion, I mean, the close relationship with the industrial and the educational institutions actually leads to the emergence of new professions that actually requires some specific skills. In these times, owning those new skills is of paramount importance. New skill, new career options, new collaborations, new partnerships are going to emerge in this new world, in this new normal, for which the adjustments are currently going on. We have to make the students more resilient and optimistic about the new future, because we have to have that hope, because hope, it's a beautiful thing. On that note, thanks a lot to panelists, thanks a lot to all the viewers. We will come back again on 9th of May at 4 p.m. We have one of the very eminent panelists. We have Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe from the AICT. We will be having them on board. See you on 9th of May at 4 p.m. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists.
Best of luck to all the students watching this. Best of luck to all of you.
Stay safe. Thanks.
Be safe.
Stay safe. Thank you.